Greetings, everyone. Dr. Espen here. This is really exciting to share with you some of the news that I've got from Europe, and for us here in Australia to be a little bit of ahead of what's coming or what may be coming. So I just want to let you all know that today I'm going to speak to you as a scientist and as a researcher. I'm going to share the facts with you as to what's currently happening in Scandinavia, where I'm born and raised, and also what they're rolling out in Europe. And I'm not going to speak to any opinion, because I know there are people out there that love what's happening, and they really support the governments, and they really want to see more of these forced regimes rolled out. And then there are other people that, of course, that don't appreciate what's happening, and they think and feel that their freedom is being taken away, their freedom of speech, their freedom of choice, their sovereignty is being taken away from them, etc. So I just want to point out that today's live and today's conversation is without opinion. I don't want to talk pro or against anything, but I'd rather want to share with you what I've been saying for a long time might be, and let's just call it might be happening in Australia soon. And so I want to use a case study currently that's happening in Denmark. I've got family in Denmark, and I've verified these facts. And I want to speak to that in a bit of a broader term, because I want to prepare you for what you might be seeing rolling out in Australia soon. It was probably about 6 months ago. And as I'm going through this, guys, I'd like you to comment. I'd like you to share. I'd like you to share your opinions. And that's not necessarily saying, yes, I'm really pro this jab, or I'm not against, or I'm against it. I'm not really there. I want you just to be informed. Because what's happening right now is a thing called the splitting prism, PRISM, the splitting prism of time. Okay, now this is an ancient thing that it's been spoken of for thousands of years. And it's where there's going to be a separation of the nation. There's going to be separation of the world. Now, just before I get into what is actually happening now, I just want to speak to this. When you look at the esoteric, when you look at the metaphysical, when you look at the quantum science of things, well, the number one block, the number one thing that stops you from having a connection with source, with God, with everything and everyone, is this thing called the illusion of separation. So in order for us to look at the truth, and this is vital, in order for us to look at the truth, the fundamental component of the entire universe is a thing called oneness. There are 12 universal laws, and the number one universal law, which means it's gravity. This thing, if I drop it, it falls down, it doesn't go up. It's a law. It doesn't matter if I believe in it, it's still going to drop. Are you with me? That's why it's considered a law. Well, the number one of the 12 universal laws, and you can just Google the 12 universal laws and you'll see them come up, okay? The number one law is the law of oneness. So the truth, when we look at quantum physics, when we look through the veil, past the veil of illusion, the truth is scientifically proven. Now, for 121 years, since Max Planck won the Nobel Prize for this topic that I'm talking about right now, the truth of the matter is that we are all connected. Not just are we connected, but we are all one. Unique expressions of source, unique expressions of God. And so the truth is that what's happening in the world right now is most likely, and you probably have experienced this already, it's going to be splitting people. It's going to be separating people. It first started with the lockdowns. Okay, now you have to be separated from your family. You have to be separated from your job. You have to be separated from your local cafe. You have to let go of these attachments, which is, of course, well, I believe, my personal opinion is that we're going through a global awakening. Okay, this is a spiritual process of coming into the light collectively. But then again, that's just my opinion. But what I want to speak to is this splitting prism of time is when there is a separation of the people, where some people believe that what's happening is a good thing, and they want the jab, they want the health pass, they want the government to continue to push and roll out these things, and others, of course, don't. Okay, so again, not talking about opinion, I'm talking about, one, there's a splitting prism of time. And at the end of this presentation, after I go through with you what they are rolling out in Europe at the moment, I'm going to share with you the number one thing that we need to do as people, as humans, in order for us to get through this thing together. And that's the key. Because you probably know just as well as me that if you walk down the street and someone's wearing a mask or they're not wearing a mask, you know, if you're a person that really, really believes in masks, you might look at the other person and say, hey, why is that person not wearing a mask? Fair call? Or if you're a person that doesn't want to wear a mask, you might be looking at people wearing a mask going, hey, look at them, they're wearing a mask. The point that I'm making is that is almost like discrimination. There is judgment from certain people, and I'll be the first to say I've done the same thing. We judge other people. Now remember, quantum science has proven that that person is a projection of us. And anytime we point a finger, three fingers are pointing back. And anytime we don't like anything about someone else, it's something within ourselves that we haven't healed yet. Are you with me, yes or no? Okay, so what I'm speaking about as a scientist is how we can, no matter what happens, no matter how different people are, what I'm talking about is how we can get through this thing together. Okay, because we are in this together. That person that you've been judging, that is you. Okay, so let's go through the stats and let's look at what's actually happening in Europe at the moment. And again, if you're liking this, please share this, please tag, and just enjoy the ride. Come along for the ride. In Denmark at the moment, which is one of the most progressive countries in the world, Denmark and also Germany, very often you'll see that Denmark and Germany and also France and Norway, where I'm from, is also up there. They roll out some of these new things. We look at ending pollution. They roll that out quickly. Now they're rolling out a thing called the Corona Pass. Okay, so let me just speak to this in Denmark and use Denmark as a case study for this example. And 6 months ago, I actually more than that, probably more than a year ago, I was talking, after COVID just hit, so let's say 9 months ago, I was talking about this thing being rolled out. And people at that time thought I was crazy. Well, it's just happened, and it's actually now legislation in Denmark. Okay, so they're rolling out this thing called the Health Pass, or the Corona Pass, excuse me. And this is to be activated in what's called My Health Portal in Denmark. If there's any Danish people on the call, hop on and comment. Tell me if I've got the details right. I believe that I do. So they're rolling out and they've activated this thing called My Health Portal, which is the Australian equivalent of MyGov, MyGov ID. It's interesting because I just logged into MyGov, which is the Australian version of it, and the first thing I saw pop up, and you might log in and have a look yourself, the first thing I saw pop up was a notification that says your immunization history statement. Okay, so just bear with me. I'm not saying I'm against this or for this. I'm talking about what is happening in the world. Okay, so I logged into MyGov to check this out. Your immunization history statement is the first thing that popped up. So now what they're doing in Denmark is they're connecting your digital identity to this My Health Pass or My Health Portal, which is the same as MyGov or a version of the MyGov account in Australia. Which means, and this is what they're doing in Denmark at the moment, they're connecting the medical records to the vaccination, or call it the jab module, testing centers. So what this means is that you will have this health pass. There at the moment, and I haven't verified this, but I understand you will not be able to go to the local shopping center, to your barber or hairdresser, to the cafe or restaurant. You won't be able to go to these places without having this health pass, this green tick in your health pass. Okay, so again, nonetheless, whatever you believe about this, what is happening is we're being, they're rolling out. And in Australia, at the moment in Queensland, we're in a state of emergency. That's the current status. It expires, I believe, tomorrow on the 1st. So we'll see if they roll that out again, but I understand that they must have this in order to continue to roll out or force this outcome upon the people. So at the moment, that's what's happening. Now, the largest tech company in Denmark called Netcompany is now rushing a new application out to be finished in June, which means that it'll be like your COVID pass, your Corona pass. which means that basically in order for you to jump on a plane, in order for you to jump on the bus, public transport, in order for you to go to the local shopping center, you need to have this pass. You either need to have one, obviously participated in this schedule that they're rolling out, or two, you must have antibodies found on the test, which proves that you've maybe had COVID or had corona. Of course, the PCR test is not even past the coach postulate, so we know that it's actually not valid to test COVID-19. But of course, that's another issue. It must pass the coach postulate in order to be used for that test. And even the inventor of the test said you can't use it for that. But that's what we're currently using anyway. On that note, I've done some research, and I just want to point this out. There is a thing called ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide, E-T-H-E-L-Y-E, ethylene, E-T-H, ethylene oxide. And ethylene oxide is a proven carcinogen, which means that it causes cancer. In fact, the Environmental Agency, the Environmental Protective Agency, talking a bit fast here, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has classified ethylene oxide to be a carcinogen themselves. So what they're saying is that EO, ethylene oxide, causes cancer primarily via the inhalation route. Okay, so ethylene oxide by the EPA has been deemed a cancer-causing agent when it enters the inhalation route. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the case in Australia, but I know it's the case in UK. I know it's the case in certain parts of Scandinavia. Ethylene oxide is what they use as a sterilizing agent at the tip of the testing device. So if you are to get tested, I would just say have a look at that and make sure that it does not have ethylene oxide that you put into the nose, because that's the number one place it cannot go according to the EPA. Okay, ethylene oxide, you might want to look that one up. So the largest tech company in Denmark at the moment, called Netcompany, is rushing this app to be finished in June. Now, what's happening is that there are also people obviously fighting against this, and what they're doing is there are certain listings in Denmark, where people are listing as certain companies and entities who will need to have the jab in order to participate. For example, this can be dentists, chiros, physios, medical doctors. It can be many different businesses that say, yes, we are you must have the vax. You must have the jab to come to our clinic. So they're listing that. And then you have other people as well that are listing the opposite. Health clinics, wellness centers, naturopaths, and whoever else. Of course, everyone that feels that this is not necessary. And they're listing it on their websites as well to say, you do not need to have the jab to come to our clinic. So there is this splitting prism of time happening at the moment. Okay, if I've got any of those facts incorrectly, I apologize, but I have verified the majority of almost everything that I spoke about today, including ethylene oxide as a carcinogen. You might want to look that one up before you get tested and just make sure that the test kit does not have EO in it. What I want to speak to here is really, really most important. Again, I'm not talking about pro or against. This is not the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm doing, from my heart, what I'm sharing with you is this. What's happening now has been spoken about for thousands of years, and it's known as the splitting prism of time, PRISM. That means that there is a divide amongst the people. There is the divide amongst the people that are pro, and there is a divide amongst the people that are against. Now, this is the number one concern, because we are all one. And the truth of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, is that person that you are judging is a projection of yourself that you haven't loved yet. We know this in metaphysics and quantum physics and quantum mechanics. So as we understand the fundamental constituent of everything within us and around us is unity and oneness, even the scientists, the quantum physicists chose to call this this field of intelligence, call it God, call it awareness, call it consciousness, call it grace, call it spirit, call it Allah, call it Buddha, call it Jesus, call it whatever you want. This field, I call it God, the greater organized design, this oneness, that is the field that connects us all within the ether. And the truth of the matter is that if we are to get through this thing, you have to firstly understand your rights as a sovereign being, because you're not just a taxpayer or a citizen of the state. You are a free, godly being. And your health and what you do with your body, no one can overpower you in your health. This is your health. This is your sovereignty. This is your freedom. This is your body. So no one has the right to force upon you anything that you do not want. That's the first point I want to make. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, know that no one has the right to force. Even God does not mess with free will. So that's point number one. Point number two is we have to come together, ladies and gentlemen. We have to come together right now, because the more we are pointing the fingers at other people, 3 fingers are pointing back. The more we are judgmental of other people, the more we fight what is happening in the world right now, the more we are going to suffer. And no matter what you believe is happening, my personal belief is that this is the global awakening. This is the grand time. This is the final coming into the golden age. This is what I believe. This is why we're going to go through so much suffering and pain as we ascend our awareness, as we raise the energy, frequency, and vibration into that field of consciousness that is, as we come home to the soul, as I call it, the state of unconditional love. So I want to just plead with you, and I just want to say, firstly, I love you so much. Secondly, know that what is happening in the world right now is a reflection of our collective consciousness. I know that it may not feel good, but we have created this as a species, and we are going to have to heal it. And in order to heal it, the only way to heal it is to go through it. And the only way to transcend it is to experience it. The only way to come back to the truth of unity, which is everyone together in the heart, is to go through it together. So I beg of you, see that person that you're judging as you. Show more love. Show more compassion. Know that no one can force you to do anything, but the answer is in the heart. I always say, let's get smart. Let's stay in the heart. And so let's do this together. Let's come home to the soul, the state of unconditional love. Let's not judge what is happening, but rather take a step back and watch the show and make the decisions that your future self is going to be proud of. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, let's just put it this way. You already know the answers. You already have the answers within. So I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for sharing, for commenting. I want to also emphasize that I'm not talking about opinions here. I'm sharing facts and stats with you. And what I believe as a man and as a scientist is the key to humanity's salvation, and that is unity, coming together and understanding that what's happening in the world now is happening for us, not to us. And love is the only answer. Unity and coming together as the people in this splitting prism of time is, I believe, the secret to our awakening. So thanks for watching. Love you guys so much. Looking forward. Stay tuned. Like this space. Subscribe to the channel and reach out if you have any questions. Take care and lots of love to you.